so many people have been accustomed to the remote work that we're going to get more and more people just being uncomfortable with social interactions.
What point am I going to feel comfortable with my boys being on social media?
My parents had books. I was growing up with TV. My kids are now growing up with social media. Their kids are growing up with AI and who knows what else, with robots further down, right? So if we are concerned that our kids are going to be exposed to things on social media, we cannot unsee things that we see. We cannot unhear things that we hear.
So as an organization wanting to ensure success, remote employees and all that, with all these remote meetings that we do, what are some of the things that will make sure that we're setting it up for success?
Simple stuff. So clearly some organizations have to be remote, right? For a variety of reasons. Sourcing talent, economics, location, and that includes us, right? So we will forever be remote. It's quite unlikely that we're ever going to have an office, and everything that we do, right, is remote. Meetings, etc. So in these meetings, I just basically have very basic rules. Camera is always on in meetings, no matter time of day the meeting is at. Good lighting. You want your space to look normal. Like, you don't want your space to look like a dungeon or to look weird to where I'm talking to you and it looks like you're sitting in the basement. Even if you are sitting in the basement, make sure the lighting is good. If we can help in any way, shape, or form to kind of, arrange your place or buy a piece of furniture, I guess we will do that, right? Just to make sure that you are perceived normally, like when you talk. Show up timely, obviously, right? Show up on time. Always look into the camera. Some people have this sort of multi-desktop setup to where the camera will be on one screen and they are looking at us, but we are looking at them sideways. So like, try to talk to me if I'm talking to you like this all the time and almost like you're not looking, right? Little details, but they do, it's almost like, try to speak to somebody who's not looking at you. It's difficult, right? Then we also have, so we have the good lighting, we have being present, we have showing up on time. No multitasking, please, right? So do not use any device. So it's a company meeting. Whatever you do must be related to the company's activities, right? You have the right to just shut that off. You'll respond to that customer request in 30 minutes when this is over. If you have an issue with being in the meeting itself, which can happen, like you could have been invited accidentally, or you have a department head who is inviting people to meetings where that's unnecessary, raise that as an issue. We can deal with that. But if you're there, be present.
Yeah, I like that. I do want to add one quick thing on the eye contact because I wholeheartedly agree. I did have an experience once where a team member brought a doctor's note from, I think, a psychologist or something, that a condition, I think it was like anxiety and whatnot, that they avoid eye contact.
In Vista?
In general.
Okay, fine. No names. Fine.
And so that person basically was like, hey, listen, I understand that's the policy. I get really uncomfortable.
I got you.
And so I do try to not even look at the screen where everybody is so that I'm speaking. I can be more confident in engaging in the conversation. So obviously, exceptions when it makes sense, but in general.
Yeah. But at the same time, I think certain jobs, certain roles require that.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know. But not to belittle the condition. Like, I think people certainly have anxieties. Like, I think we all do. It's just overcoming them.
Yeah.
So one way is to kind of give into it, and the other one is to overcome it, right?
No, I agree.
Imagine, by that rationale, the person wouldn't go to the office either, or, you know what I mean? So I think we need to kind of like what you talk about always, that trust.
Yeah.
Let's understand the situation. Let's help the person deal with it. Let's kind of make the person feel like they're not, in school, or we're not judging. You know what I mean? I think
to the point where they don't feel whatever the environment that makes them feel anxious to the extent where they can't. How do we get them to the point where they feel
I wonder if we live in a day and age when, like the post-COVID era, right, where so many people have been accustomed to the remote work that we're going to get like more and more people just being uncomfortable,
social anxiety, right?
With like social interactions.
Yeah.
So, but again, it's not like it's decades old problem in the making. So whatever anxieties people have, they must be just maybe 2-3 years old.
Yeah.
We can probably uproot those with some kind help.
You said that, and I remember you messaged me the other day, like, hey, so-and-so is not making eye contact. Was that something you made clear? And like, everybody on the team knows, but I did have a conversation with that team member like week one of them being in Vista. I was like, okay, I forgot to tell Vitaly about this.
We gotcha.
Okay. So I'm a relatively new dad, right? I'm on kid number 2, a little bit faster than I was expecting, but I am kind of juggling this whole world, and social media moves so fast. At what point am I going to feel comfortable with my boys being on social media? What are your thoughts on that?
Listen, again, I like pragmatism when it comes to kind of accepting certain innovations in our daily lives. And what I mean by that is innovations are not new in principle.
Yeah.
Like my parents had books. Like I was growing up with TVs and internet subsequently. My kids are now growing up with social media. Their kids are growing up with AI and who knows what else, with robots further down, right? And I think every generation is kind of concerned for the fact that the next generation is going to be kind of like different or impacted. So if we are concerned that our kids are going to be exposed to things on social media, then I'm sure like my parents were concerned that I'll see things on the internet that I should not be seeing, right? It's no different. It's the same idea. So limited information and exposure that they had, I guess, offered some safety. Internet lessened that. Social media further undermined that, and AI will further undermine that. So I do agree, though, that in this sort of proverbial sort of competition, kids versus social media would win. Because, I mean, not even with kids, I think it would win over humans because we cannot unsee things that we see. We cannot unhear things that we hear. So whatever comes our way gets into us. Think of it as almost like as dirt. Like, you know, you go outside and whatever is in the air, whatever dust, you're coming home with it. Like you can try to take that shower, but it's still like it's in there. Like you can't be, you know, somehow disconnected from all of it. And obviously the impact on kids and on us is problematic and more so perhaps on kids because I guess they're not formed humans yet. They haven't formed their system of values or, you know, whatever that is. But even that is subjective. Like the other day I was speaking again to my mom and she talks how concerned, let's say, she is about, in this particular case, a private religious education that we want to give to our daughter, right? And this is unrelated to social media, but it's the same concept. You take a kid and you put him in a religious educational institution. And her concern was that how much brainwashing, how much religious stuff is going to get into the head. Again, not social media, but other ideas. But still into kids, right? And my point to her was like, but how about me growing up in Soviet Union, right? And me, the 6-year-old, going into the school and all sorts of communist nonsense was being thrown at me. I don't remember you being concerned. And what I meant by that is that was the world you understood and accepted. And them throwing that communist stuff into my head was normal to you. Not normal to anybody else. It was normal to you because that was your world, right? And then now we growing up in a certain thing, and now like our kids now seeing things that we didn't see, and we are bothered by this. So I think the risks are there, and I think you're a young father. I guess my kids are older. My attempt, right, this futile attempt in dealing with this, and we're going to lose that battle because it's just too much. All their friends are going to be on social media, and they are, and then they're going to be all over it, and there are no parental controls that I know of on TikTok, right? So they'll see everything. So I found sort of safety in keeping them busy and making sure they have interests that they are truly interested in. So I think maybe the risk is that if social is all they got, so maybe then you kind of run certain risks. But I think it's inevitable that kids will be there. I also think there may be some like positives there. For instance, we had some friends come over. They live in another state, and we see them like every couple of years. So there is a big difference. And our kids are roughly the same age. And so the kids also see each other every couple of years. So they don't know each other practically, right? So, and they visited recently, and in the corner of my eye, I'm kind of noticing them kind of interacting. And to my surprise, they kind of like, they're behaving as though they are good friends. They are like, have always known each other, and they have common things to talk about. I'm kind of curiously, I'm like spying on them a little bit, trying to hear what they're talking about. And they talk about some social media stuff that they all see. So they're all united by the fact that they see the same thing on social media. So I wonder if this thing has like some sort of an impact where, and we talk about this also, how the world is democratized by common cultures, music, movies, and whatnot. So I wonder if everybody watches the same thing on social, more or less, the same trends that is anyways, right? So then we are more alike. So in the whole discourse thing that we talk about, actually maybe that's how it's all going to end, because everybody's going to like watch the same influencer in the end of the day. In any case, it's a complicated
No, it is. And I think you're right. I think when I think about it, it seems kind of dumb to try to figure out a way where like, oh, my kid's not going to be on social media until they're 18 years old. And maybe you could try, like you said, but it's a losing battle. My thought, and obviously time will tell, is how do we prepare them for it? How do we equip them to almost discipline so that they use it as a tool, right? And I guess I kind of go back to the fact that my first laptop, and a lot of people don't like hearing this, is I was 12 years old, but it was because I had the web design clients and I was doing stuff like a little mini business side hustle thing, right? And so my parents were like, okay, this is like a business tool for him, right? We're going to expose him to this and we're going to set some guardrails, but there's definitely a discipline to it in the fact that after a certain time in the afternoon, it was definitely like, hey, computer's off. We're going to do dinner time together. Similar to, I hear some parents, like TV time or iPad time, like where you separate specific time of the day. So I think that there is an opportunity for maybe setting some guardrails and boundaries and teaching them how to have a healthy respect for like balance. Like I'm not going to be on my phone the entire day. I'm not going to be on TikTok the entire day, but maybe creating pockets of time where, okay, this is entertainment time on your phone, go do that for whatever.
So I have 3 kids and there is a good spread of years between them, 16, I think, between the youngest and the oldest, which essentially represents 16 years of tech evolution.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So from 2000 basically all the way to now. So the younger one, the older one, got his first phone when he was probably about 10, 11, regular flip phone, not even maybe, and then the smartphone by the time he was 14. And I can see how that turned out. I think he is much more aligned with my view of the world and kind of like, he's that kind of a person. So then I have the middle child. He is getting he's on social media probably by the time he's 10, only because he's got a smartphone, and that's kind of that. And now my 5-year-old is now luckily on YouTube Kids, and she's 5, right? So, and we're trying to keep her off but she is on the smart device at 5. So again, 14 smartphone, 10 smartphone, and now 5 smartphones. So it's definitely starting early. So I don't think I'll be able to get my 5-year-old any kind of preparedness going for her in terms of social media. So I know that you are a man of faith. So one of my theories right now, and again, like the cool thing about having kids is that you can experiment with humans.
Yeah, A/B test, A/B test.
Again, like these are your kids, and and as my mom says, like no matter how good you are with your kids, they'll always find a reason to see a psychologist later. So so I'm like, all right. So one of my thought processes is that while this sort of system of values is ever evolving, particularly with like all the trends on social, there are a few things that are forever kind of constant, and that is represented to some degree in faith, right? Yeah. Whatever the faith is, these are set values that have existed for centuries, right? And I am thinking that by like sending our younger one to a more faith-oriented schooling, I wonder if that's going to represent certain values that could be like instilled that are slightly more, that have been through the test of times, right? A bit more so than the communist ideas of my mom, or not hers, but like the society that she was in, or the trends of TikTok. These are all extremes.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm trying to find something that's sort of somewhere in between, something like stable. And I wonder if faith is like one of those angles, right, that is a little bit more stable than everything else.
So you'll be able to kind of split test.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Between
like A/B test
middle
all the
child
way.
and the younger child. A live human experiment.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
But yeah,
awesome.
kids are tough. I mean, my only hope is that by this constant barrage of reminding them what truly matters is what could potentially play in your favor.
Yeah.
Got to have a lot of patience, though, I think, because like on a day-to-day basis, trends are going to win over anything you say.
Yeah.
But I think in time, hopefully, if you invest enough of your energy into this, hopefully it sort of comes back.
Let's revisit this in 18 years, and we can share the results of these experiences,
10 years,
experiments,
right.
because I got 2 kids, and they're roughly the same age, so it'll be really nice to be able to real-time test. You get TikTok, you get Instagram. Let's see.
Wow.
Let's
Give them names in accordance. TikToker, Instagrammer.
That's their nicknames going forward. Oh, man.
That's a fantastic way of like experimenting, like putting kids onto social media, onto like specific channels, and seeing what happens. Got to have more kids though to truly make the.
Yeah, because by the time you start ruining someone, you got to have new ones to have fresh tests.
Remember that documentary on Super Size Me, where the guy ate McDonald's for like whatever longer, I think, but like he got totally sick in the end, like whatever. Yeah. So it kind of reminds me of that, where you do something that you know is bad for you, but you do it just out of this need to like prove to the world that this is bad. Like, look what happens.
So I know that we talked a little bit about partnerships, and I even mentioned how sometimes most times it kind of feels like a marriage where it's either going to work
The
and
business partnership.
yeah. How do you feel about that? Business partnerships in general?
I'm always apprehensive, and not because of it's any sort of trust or things like that, even though that's obviously very important. Like I've always struggled with having partners in business simply because of the effort, right? So I'm tenacious. Like I just go. I'm 24/7, right? So matching my level of energy is going to be very difficult for people. So not their fault. It's just, but that's who I am. So getting a partner who can match your energy is going to be very tough, right? But obviously, it's also much more difficult to not have partners. So because, anybody, it's nice to have a backup, right? It's nice to have somebody to help you. But I have a joke on this. And also there's like this whole thing about whether the partnership is healthy enough where both partners kind of see their value. Do they end up arguing around who does more work, and all sorts of weirdness could sort of occur. So the joke goes like this, that I love about this. Is two friends meet after years of not seeing one another. They went to school together, right? And one guy is doing remarkably well, drives a nice car, and the other guy is just nothing, carries a grocery bag, nothing, drives a bad car. So the rich guy sees the poor guy and says, oh, Jimmy, years, how, oh my God, what happened to you? And then Jimmy is like, okay, explains to him life was difficult and whatnot. And the rich guy wants to help Jimmy. It's like, Jimmy, I got an opportunity for you. You know what? This is how it's going to work. So every day, somebody's going to knock on your door and deliver it back to you. There's going to be $10,000 in that bag. You're going to keep 1,000 and bring 9,000 to me. Deal? The guy's like, oh, wow, amazing, fantastic. So they begin that deal, right? So time goes by. Every day, somebody knocks on the door. He keeps 1,000. Delivers $9,000 to the rich guy. Some time goes by, years go by. This poor guy now is well off. He bought a house, he bought a car. He's doing really, really well. So one day he calls the rich guy and says, listen, this whole $1,000, but I'm doing all the work.
I see.
So it's kind of so partnerships are tough because of, the perception, right, of who does more work in the end of the day. But the fact who brought the opportunity, who kind of created this whole thing, who was there earlier. I think we had this issue with the prior company where there was this individual that insisted on a significant payout, but he joined much later in the game. So I think these things, they happen within partnerships.
I feel like more often than not, we hear about negative outcomes, at least in our space with software, where business partnerships end up not working really well and people end up splitting and figuring something out. But it is tough because I think it's easy to, when you're starting out especially, just kind of oh, this is going to be, it's fine. It's a great deal. And I don't know that people give it the effort that it really deserves. And the reason I keep saying that it's like a marriage is you put effort into figuring out whether the spouse is the person you actually want to marry. You put a significant effort into it. And I don't know that every founder that I've heard of or spoken to who ended up badly put that level of effort. Even if it was 20% of the effort, I feel like it could be a little better. But, at the end of the day, it's tough.
Yeah, so ideally you want people who are proven entity, who you worked with before, ideally not relatives, not friends whose relationship you could sort of sacrifice here, because even in a partnership, you can end up having very serious conversations. Yeah. And the last thing you want is to sort of sacrifice a friendship just because, there is a debate or there is a discussion. So yeah, partnerships are tough, but I think they are at some point inevitable because obviously as you build businesses, you have to have people that are key people. If you do want them to see beyond just a salary, you have to incentivize it through equity.
Yeah.
And as soon as you begin to give equity, then you begin to have these problems. Yeah. So by problems, I mean these logistics, right, that you have to worry about.
I know that we talk a lot about competition and being successful. What's the best advice that you have for someone who's in a very competitive environment and they want to win?
So my personal theory on this, and it's been echoed by a lot of extremely accomplished people, and late Kobe Bryant is sort of one person who I think verbalized in a very sort of clear way what that sort of mentality is. And that sort of mentality essentially says that you have to go faster and do more than your competition. So there is this great moment when U.S. basketball Olympic team dominated in the early 90s, And then as the world began to play, sort of started to play better basketball, they struggled. And by like 2000s, they were trying to do a comeback. They were trying to build a team that sort of would dominate one more time. And Kobe Bryant was in his already older years. He was already playing for a while, and they kind of brought him in as a, I guess, a mentor. He was still amazing. He was still a Lakers, like he was so good, but he was like an older player by comparison compared to the others. LeBron James was there already. Like there was a lot of like famous players, and they were in their training camp, and they had the practice, they had the dinner, and a lot of players went out, I guess, club or whatnot. Like so, 4:00 in the morning, they get back into the hotel. They go up to the elevator, they press the button, elevator doors open, and they're about to walk in. But who comes out? Kobe Bryant, off to his first practice. So he was practicing, that was his first practice, right? So by like the next day, like one person out of the party goers joined him for the 4:00. Within a week, everybody was practicing at 4 a.m. Because Kobe's point was this, that basketball is very competitive. Everybody can shoot those baskets, everybody's super good, everybody dribbles, everybody's fast. How do you stand apart? So what he says, like a normal basketball player, right, gets up at 8:00, has a breakfast, drives to practice. By 10:00, he's at the practice. By 12, he's done, goes home, eats, rests. By 5:00, he's in practice, second practice of the day, goes back home, dinner, family, goes to sleep. That's like a typical routine, like intense, 2-hour practices, like intense stuff, right? So what Kobe does, right? He gets up at 4:00. By 5:00, he's in his practice number 1. By 7, he's back. He eats, he relaxes, sleeps, whatever. By 11, he's in his second practice. Comes back, relaxes, eats. By 3, he's in his third practice. By 7, he's in his fourth practice. So he's at 4 practice. Even if he's at 3 practices, he's got like this one extra practice a day, maybe even 2. So you multiply that. His point was, if you multiply that extra effort, right, by, say, a decade, and nobody can catch you. No talent can come even near you, because by that point, you're shooting certain percentile free throwers. Like you are fast, your dribble is better. Like you've accumulated so much, you cannot be caught with. So I think his mentality was just do more than your competition. So if you take an extra step every day than your competition, you're just going to simply outpace them. And it's just such a... It's not like you have to like bend over backwards. You have to like, I don't know, learn how to fly. There's none of it. Like it's such a simple technique. It's just like literally like do something extra every day that just outpaces whatever that is that you're competing with.
Outworking the competition.
Outworking, like whatever, let's say, whatever you're competing with.
Do you feel like higher education, traditional education gets in the way of success?
I want to say yes, but at the same time, I also I don't want to sort of negate the need for education that is geared towards learning sciences. I don't know, chemistry, physics, biology. Clearly, these are complex areas, right? And it would be nice if you have a guided instruction to get you through studying all that, right? But I think so few people, at least in our space, need any of it in their lives, right? So take your support team, right? Do they need to know physics? Like, so a lot of stuff that they need to know has to do more with communication, has to do more with, let's say, writing, or these much less intense sciences, right? They're not going to be like operating on humans, right? They're not going to be building rockets, right, that are going to be flying into space. So, and that's the majority of people in the end of the day, right? So that's the people that sort of we see, that we work with. Is there a need for them to spend 4 years studying random things in college just so they can do support later? So I really love Noam Chomsky. I don't know if you know, he's like a linguist. He's also a philosopher, highly sort of controversial figure in many different ways. And he's been like on the scene of debates on all sorts of subjects, like for the past probably 60 years. He's in his 90s, I think now. But I really like his discussion of education, like what is the value? So what is the purpose of education? And a lot of times I ask that question, people typically say, well, that's just sort of just like evolve personally, develop certain skills, and why does education sort of exist? And his answer was, education exists to build people who can contribute the best possible way to the world at large, but let's say to the society that they live in. So, and from that regard, so the education is not about like learning formulas and whatnot. It's about like learning something that will make you useful, that will make you a contributor to the society.
Right.
And arguably, you can learn that in a variety of ways. Like you can learn that institutionally, you can learn that online, right? And luckily, at least here in the States, right, that whole racket that we talk about of higher education and job market where they require like bachelor degree or something, that's not always the case. There's plenty of opportunity, at least in this country, of you being just who you are with the knowledge that you can accumulate on your own, coming in for an interview at Vista Social. Like, we don't discriminate like that. You know what I mean? So we don't look at your education when we interview. So you need to communicate well. You need to write well or whatever, depending on the position, I guess. And we'll take you. Like, we do not care where you got your education. So if you think that you need to spend $58,000 a year getting educated to work at a SaaS company, don't bother. That's not a requirement. Maybe some large corporations still have that on their own. You must have bachelor's degree. Like,
Or worse, master's.
master's. Yeah.
I heard, I don't remember the name of the physicist, and I also don't even know if this was like backed by any sort of research.
So let's do it. Drop the rumor.
He's a really famous physicist too. Neil deGrasse Tyson, you know Neil Tyson? Yeah. So he was in a podcast where he was being interviewed, not our podcast, but Neil. So he was saying how, the whole concept that you're talking about, like, hey, do we need trigonometry and all that? And I'll be honest, I stopped at algebra.
I said nothing about trigonometry.
No, but you're talking about
trigonometry.
You're talking.
You need trigonometry. No, I explicitly said nothing about trigonometry.
You didn't. But you were saying about like these complex things that you might not need, right?
Yes, I did.
So he was explaining how I kind of agree with it, but I also don't know. Again, you will likely not need to know how to calculate the hypotenuse or whatever the heck it is, right? I haven't in God knows how long, right?
Yeah.
But the not necessarily the brain power, but the thought process that you needed to be able to learn how to do it, and the complex thinking that you learned in order to understand those equations or how to apply them unlocks a level of complex thinking that'll help you in other areas. And I feel like that kind of makes sense, Kind of sometimes I stopped in high school at algebra 2. I really struggled with geometry, I'll be honest. The whole prove this, prove that. I mean, proof is right there. And I stopped. I didn't do trig. I didn't do anything. And I'm like, sometimes I wonder, like, man, if I had learned those kind of more complex maths, what it would look like for my kind of complex thinking and whatnot. But
I think, there's no debate that like putting sort of pressure on yourself to learn anything is probably helpful in general. Just like exercise of any kind is helpful. We talk about education as an institution.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we are talking about as being sort of unnecessarily ever present in our lives as something that everybody must get, right? So we're not disputing the value of learning trigonometry or learning physics or anything like that. I'm just vehemently disagreeing with the need to pay $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a year to get it. I think, again, I just find that almost repulsive that there is such a expensive system of getting ahead in life. Because just think of how enormous that money is for some folks. I know you talked about your immigrant father. Like, imagine in the world where families could live on like $1,000 a month. Like, how can you possibly entertain, $10,000 education?
per semester.
So, but again, luckily the world is getting democratized. Luckily for everybody, information is absolutely available, and I think it's just a matter of time before college becomes a, I don't know. I think it could get relegated to some sort of a corner of our society that is geared more towards like the scientists and the doctors, and not be in a way of just majority of people.
So I know that you play chess a lot. See it on your phone a lot. I even want to get the team at our next retreat to compete against you to see who will beat you. Do you think that there's something about chess that's useful outside, either in business or in life or anything like that?
I think generally, I think everybody thinks that chess, given that it's an intellectual kind of a game where you have to really think and strategize, it has to kind of be helpful. I think it's a generally sort of understood. I think a lot of parents try to get their kids to play because they feel like it's going to be helpful. It teaches them, it forces the brain to work. It's all sorts of benefits, right? And they're not wrong. I mean, they're absolutely right. It does help. My fascination with the game isn't just the fact that I get to, think for just a second. My fascination with the game is that some of the concepts that are just present in the game, that are just enormously awesome and just mind-blowing, no different than, you discovering a certain fact about life or a certain trick that somebody teaches you. So there are these concepts within chess, and I'll just give you a couple of examples. So this one example, strategy of attack, right? So I'm playing against you and I'm moving my pieces, right? And it doesn't even matter. Like I understand, like you're like you don't play or you don't play a little bit
Badly.
badly. Okay, listen, I'm no different by the way. So I'm a terrible player, but I do love the game. So you are moving your pieces in a way of attacking your pieces, right? The way I'm going to do it, I'm going to try to create a problem for you. So when I created a problem for you, like I don't know, I attacked your piece, right? You're going to have to deal with that attack, right? You're going to have to protect that piece, and then I'm going to attack another piece. And then you're going to protect that piece. And seemingly, I'm not making that much progress, right? Because you were managing to kind of deflect every attack that I do, right? However, let's change the scenario a little bit. Let's say every move I do, I give you 2 problems to solve. Now, you only have 1 move, so you got to find the move that deals with both problems. So chances are you're only going to find the move that deals with 1 problem and maybe a little bit with the other problem. I'm going to keep an eye on that. I'm going to see which problem you dealt with the worst, right? And I'm going to attack that area again with 2 problems. And now you already had a pretty bad decision made once towards that problem. And now I'm giving you 2 more problems. Given the suboptimal nature of your first solution, your next 2 solutions are also going to be suboptimal, of which one even going to be worse. And I'm just going to hit that area until there's going to be a hole, which I'm simply going to walk through. So this notion, and then it's like the better players, like the amateur players, they will make like 1 problem in any given move. Slightly more trained players will create 2 problems. Slightly more professional players will create 3 problems. And then like the true pros will create like so many problems for you that you simply have this feeling of suffocating. Like nothing is going on, but you are suffocating. There is nothing you can do because there are so many problems. So, and I think it's such a great idea just in the world of everything. So in the world of competing in business or in sports, right? So if you create more problems for the other side that they can deal with, they eventually drown. I think the lawyers use this all the time. They will like file so many lawsuits and then even more lawsuits, and then the other side just drown. So I think like it's such a great application. So it's not like one of the only example, but I think that's example of problem creation and letting the other side simply drown. Nobody can solve more than 1 problem at any given time.
I feel like I need to get back into like learning. I watched that Queen's Gambit. I'm sure you watched it on Netflix.
Yeah.
Like after that, I got back in. I played for like a month.
The popularity of that sport apparently like skyrocketed. Like a lot of girls went back into the game. But yeah, I think I'm just fascinated by the game, by the ideas that are present in it. But there's a big difference between like understanding the idea and knowing the idea and then being to apply it in the game. I think that's kind of where I struggle, is like I can't quite put the principles into motion. And for that reason, I've never kind of played at any decent level. But it certainly helps me in life though, to kind of deal with problems or deal with the way. There is another principle in chess, which is basically, it goes like this. We are playing for time, right? So we're playing for time. It's a time game. Like every opponent has like, let's say 5 minutes to play the game.
Oh.
And so I move, I click, you move, you click, and the time slowly winds down, right? So, and as the time winds down, so let's say I'm winning on time. Let's say I got a minute and you got 10 seconds left or 30 seconds left, right? So what I'm going to do is, even if let's say, and I'm losing, but I know that I got more, that you don't have as much time as I do. So what I'm going to do is, with every move, I'm going to try to keep the complexity on the board. You're going to try to like exchange pieces to simplify the position, and I'm going to avoid it. I'm going to try to make the position more complicated. Keep as many pieces on the board as I can. Because why? Because you don't have the time. If I simplify the position, then it's going to be simpler for you and you can actually win. But if I keep the position complex and you don't have the time, you're simply going to run out of time. Simple idea, right? So another idea would be, it's like this ultimate choke, I guess, in MMA, where I'm going to put you in a position where every move you make now makes your position worse, and there is nothing you can do about it. So like, it's a state where you are out of moves, and every move you make, you are basically killing yourself.
Wow.
So I don't even have to do anything now. And as I say, I think chess has lots of these kind of like small, tiny principles, and obviously better players are able to like weaponize them. But even if not like me, I can't weaponize it, but at least kind of like I really enjoy the whole concept of this.
Like in the game itself, I feel like I've seen this. You either have to win, or you have to lose. Is there a draw?
Draws, but it all depends on tournaments. Yeah, typically it's a draw or a win, but they will play like best of 7 or best of 15 or something.
I don't even know the time thing. I don't know.
But they're different formats. I mean, you have the long game, you have the blitz games, you have like minute games, bullets, whatever. Like there are all sorts of like endless competitions, right? But I think this notion of principles from sports, right,
Yeah.
being ever present in life, like in American culture, baseball.
Yeah.
My God, baseball delivers so much wisdom. Like you could hear things like it's like a full count. What does that mean? Full count means that it's the next shot basically wins. So the pitcher made enough mistakes, the catcher and the thrower, like whatever. So they made enough mistakes, and the next ball decides everything. So and it's like the moment of truth. Like, is that person gonna throw the ball right in the center so it's easy for you to hit? So in baseball, you have the full count. You have the hitter and the pitcher. They made enough mistakes. So this one final throw is coming in. So think of it from the hitter side, right? So the hitter is standing there thinking he's going to throw the ball, right? And I can do one of two things. I don't have to swing or I'm going to swing. If I don't swing, what I'm basically hoping for is that he's throwing outside of the box, that he's making a mistake on purpose because he knows I have to swing. So he's going to throw it where I can't even possibly hit it because he knows I have to swing. And I'm going to count on that, and I'm not going to swing, right?
Oh.
So now the pitcher knows that the guy has to swing, and he has to make a decision. Does he throw in the box and take the chance, or does he throw it outside of the box knowing that the guy is going to swing? You know what I mean? Like in that full count situation represents a moment in time when like the decision has to be made, and it's the moment of truth basically. So I think like a lot of sports have like these strategy kind of concepts
That can translate.
into business,
life.
yeah, potentially.
My gosh, I watched Moneyball for the first time ever.
Yeah, but Moneyball, like that's actually on a different subject, but yeah, that's also baseball. Yeah,
That's great. I mean, it is baseball, right?
it is baseball. But no, but that talks about how
Like stats and data, right?
yeah. So how you can't really like hire people based on you have to hire people. Let's say, for example, you hire the best writer, or you hire the best graphic designer, or you hire the coder that's like amazing at I don't know writing code, right? So when I'm hiring a coder, I have to like hire a coder that's has the best stats of delivering bug fixes. So that's the stuff. Like it doesn't matter how good his code looks, and the fact that his code like somehow is better than the other guy's code, right? So it's like this. You got to look at the right stat.
Now whether he's got a mustache and he pitches weird or whatever. That was a really cool movie. So we talked about recruiting and retaining people. Something about marketing that's tough. Like, why do you think it's so hard to hire for marketing?
Right. So I think when you hire people, right, you have to have enough questions to try to judge, right, whether they represent the skills that you need for them to have, right? With engineering, it's a very sort of precise thing, right? I can ask them to code. I can ask technical questions, right? With support, or you can talk about like, hey, what would you do in this case? What would you do in that case? See how they solve for particular problems, like screaming customer, down system, whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can do that. With marketing, you could talk about some strategies that they've implemented, right? But you may not get like the exact picture because a lot of times you're hiring marketer who hasn't been like in exactly the same company. That other company had different teams set up. So he'll tell you all about the fact that they were part of a big team and like that they had this and that, and all that is great. But like, how do you know if this person can now live within your world, right? Because your organizations could be different. I mean, one would argue try to hire like from the same organizations, but that's going to just like really limit your pool of options. So there is a disparity of their sort of environment that they worked in and yours. So how do you determine if their skills are going to be valuable to you? So again, they could be telling you about things that they used to have access to that you may not be able to give them access to. They used to have a data scientist on their team, and they used to have a whole department doing affiliate marketing or paid marketing or whatever that is, right? And even if they recognize that you don't have it, and if they're willing to kind of come into the environment where they're not going to have that support, it's good. It's a good start. Like, certainly you want to check into that, but still you don't know if they can actually do the work. So, and that's the challenge, right? So, and I think we deal with it somehow by trying to kind of bring it back to specifics still. How is your writing skills? Like, are you good with copy? Like any marketer who says writing is not my thing, to me is a red flag. Not to say that we want every marketer to kind of write copy on the blog, but I think writing a copy means that you're able to formulate ideas into written form. Even if you don't write blogs, you still need that ability for email ideas for social posts. Like, so that would be a red flag for me. I would talk about things like tracking and data. How well versed is the person in setting up, the necessary tracking, aware of what kind of tracking is possible? How would you determine success of any kind of campaign? And you want to see them really be on top of their game. Like, oh, you want tracking on social? I'll set up a Facebook pixel. I will feed that data into HubSpot. I will ensure that the system captures that information. I would use the admin. Like, you want to hear that stuff. What you don't want to hear is things like, oh, we had a person that did this. Or we had a team that handled that. Because that would leave you with what? Who then am I hiring? So am I hiring, a coordinator at best? So I think like the specificity is what really key in interviewing.
No, that makes sense. On that note, I did start thinking through, I wonder if we keep getting, I guess off the record, a lot of generalists who don't necessarily, other way around, specialists who are drive result in this, but don't know how to do this, and this. They don't know how to use HubSpot to this degree, and they don't know how to do attribution. I wonder if a lot of the talent pool out there have been, through either formal education or internships, been prepared for large organizations.
Sure.
Where they're going to have 50 people on their team, and each person, you need attribution. This person's going to help you
Sure.
with that. Oh, you need tracking for your Google Ads. This person's going to set up your landing pages, and that doesn't translate well to startups. Like that, it doesn't.
Our world is very different, and I think our problems are very different than those of a large company. And I think if you have a person who's getting interviewed for a startup, I think that person needs to understand, right, that it is wearing your multiple proverbial hats and doing pretty much everything.
Yeah.
So I've always looked at it as obviously I'm a developer by trade, right? And I worked at large companies. Well, I kind of started with startups and then I kind of went into the corporate world. But I always kind of disliked the idea that I'm just like a cog building one little component in this large system. So for every hour that I spend coding, I would spend like 5 hours dealing with all sorts of nonsense of like seeking access, connecting with 5 other teams and this and that. So to me, when I got into like more of startups, and it's such a liberating concept because you can do everything. And if you love what you do, that's not a problem.
Right.
Which I do. Like I really enjoy this stuff. So that's not I would love to kind of solve for these problems and not have to deal with all the. So I think people go for that sort of work if they really enjoy what they do, right? Versus if it's just a career, you don't really have a passion for it, then maybe, you might be safer in the marketing, like doing some stuff with the corporate stuff, like if you truly kind of want to zoom in. Because if you get into like our world, right? I mean, look at yourself. You are in a customer support, but you are also in HubSpot. You are also in all of our payment systems. You are, Google Analytics. Heck, you even are in a developer console looking at some issues. You are in the product call. You are in sales call. Like, where does it stop?
API documentation.
So I think you have to be willing to kind of do this. And again, that's also, by the way, like an interesting question, like an interview, just to kind of try to assess whether the person realizes and is totally cool with the intensity of the work. Again, people look at it as a negative. I look at it as a positive. Like to me, a day that's intense, it's a day that, first of all, goes by quickly. It's a lot more fun.
You're that much closer to the goal.
We're not in a mine, axing at some, rock all day long where my back is going to hurt. You're sitting in your chair, you sipping coffee, and you're working. I mean, how fun is that? Like, to me, it's totally fun.
Each hard, difficult day is that much closer to the
Not
end goal.
only that, right?
You know what I mean?
And ultimately the outcome is also cool,
Okay.